It's connecting. Come on, come on, come on. Okay. Where are you? Come on, Facebook. I don't see you. It says we're live. Hold on one second. Okay, we're live, Celeste. You're on.
Well, hello. You're listening to the new WCEG Network on WCEGTalkRadio.com. Watch us live on your smart TV, YouTube, WCEG Network. I am Celeste Giordano, your show host, and we have Sara Poe, my co-host. And this night is Global Legacy and Wealth Building for the next 2 hours. We're the Worldwide Community Empowerment Group, where we speak life into the community. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and on Instagram at WCEG_talk_radio and at WCEG Network. And last but not least, our disclaimer, the topics and opinions are those of the show host and guest and not WCEG Network. Thank you for your continued support, and thank you, Penny Rogers, for the opportunity to host the show today. Hey, Sara, how are you?
I'm good, Celeste. How's it going?
Good. We were glad to have you back. Christine Martinella did a fabulous job on our nonprofit show at the end of June, and we're glad to have you here today. We have a fabulous show lined up for today. We have our guests, Pat Miller and Janie Shibley, and they're from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Is that correct?
Yes.
And good. And we're going to be talking on the next hour about reconnecting with your customers. And I met Jamie at eWomen in Cincinnati back in March, I believe it was. Jamie was our guest speaker and did a fabulous job talking about connecting with your customers and ways that you could connect with them. And Jamie introduced me to Pat Miller, who's also eWomen, even though he is, what do we call them, e-men, Pat?
Yes, I'm an email, technically.
An email.
Yes.
And so he's part of the Milwaukee chapter as well. And we're just really honored and privileged to have both of you on the show tonight. And what I'd like to do is, Pat, would you be so kind to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and your company, and then we'll ask Jamie to do the same thing.
Sure. Well, Celeste and Sara and Penny, thank you so much for having me today. I'm Pat Miller. I'm the Idea Coach. I'm also a Premier Success Coach for the eWomen Network, and I'm the host of the Lift As We Climb podcast on the eWomen Network as well. And what I do is I help small business owners improve their marketing by connecting them with their customers and helping them stand out and sell. So I help them with consulting, I coach them, and I also build communities. And the newest community that just went live is the Idea Collective for Small Business Owners, where I'm uniting driven small business owners from all around the country in one place to collaborate and grow their business. It's a great business. I love to do it, and it's an honor to be here.
Well, it's an honor and privilege to have you on our show tonight, Pat, and we're looking forward to learning and being educated and inspired by the information that you're going to share with us tonight. Jamie, would you be so kind to introduce yourself and tell us about your company, please?
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having me. So Janie Shibley, I am the CEO of the Expressory, and we are your relationship building concierge. So our goal is to help fellow business owners make sure that they have unforgettable follow-up. And the best part is they don't have to do it themselves. So we want to make sure that you're out there building the relationships, and we're going to talk about all of why that's important now more than ever as we dig in here. So I am excited to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely, and we're excited to have you, Jamie. And when you spoke at eWomen in Cincinnati in March, it was such a connection. You know, I am a business coach, a master sales strategist, and one of the things that I took back to my Silver Council private clients, and we talked, our whole group call that month was about the education and the knowledge that you shared with the eWomen in Cincinnati. So I'm excited that you're going to share this with the WCEG Talk Radio people today. It's followers and listeners. So they're in for a 1-2 punch is what I call with you and Pat Miller today.
Yes.
So,
yes. Lots of ideas.
Absolutely. Sara, anything that you'd like to say before we get started?
I'm big into podcasts, Pat. So I missed what you said about your podcast. I'm trying. I love podcasts because they're short. They're usually around an hour, hour and a half, and it's great for a ride or when I get up and I have to have noise around me all the time. I grew up in a household full of people. So every morning I turn on my podcast and I learn something new. So I'll have to get that from you because I missed what you said about that.
Oh
I
yeah,
love podcasts.
that would be great. It's liftasweclimbpodcast.com, and it's available on the web at liftasweclimbpodcast.com or any place that you get a podcast,
Okay.
Apple, Stitcher, Spotify. We're everywhere, and it's in partnership with the eWomen Network. So it's a great chance to learn from everyone in the network.
Awesome. Awesome.
Very
And I
good.
thank you. And thank you, Jamie.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we're going to get started here. So Pat, it's been a tough 2020 so far. So what do we need to do to get back on track and save 2020?
Well, this is something that's come up a lot in our network, and I think we have to recalibrate our expectations. The very first thing that we have to do to save 2020 is know what a good job looks like, because for some of us, our businesses have radically changed in the first 6 months of the year, and saving 2020 might be a different number or a different outcome than what you thought going in to 2020. At the same time, you also have to make sure that you're up to date with what your customer expectations are, and you're up to date with what your products are and why anyone should care, because the world is a different place right now than it was 100 days ago. So it is really important right now. The very first thing is to stop, reassess what your goals are, reconnect with your customers, and understand what they want out of you and your product or service.
So let me ask you something, Pat. So what suggestions would you have for them to reconnect?
Well, the first thing you should do when you're trying to reconnect with your customers, and this is going to be like really out there, okay? So I don't mean to like talk over anybody's head, but this is pretty advanced. You should grab a thing called the telephone. You should call your customer. That's it. The end. That's how you start, is you start by talking with your customers, because you'll hear experts all the time that would come on a show like this and have the opportunity to share what they know. And they'll share some really advanced data scraping and Facebook pixels and craziness. The very first thing is just call one of your great customers and ask how they're doing, and make sure that you understand what's important to them right now, because their outlook on the world has changed as well. So start by listening, start by understanding, and then work backwards. So that's where I would start. It's just by picking up the phone. Now, from there are a lot of other pieces of information that you could look into. The next thing that I would consider after a good conversation and hearing how they're feeling and what they're valuing at the moment is, it would be really interesting data if you're selling things to know what was moving January until the end of March, and then what's selling since March till now, because those are two really good 30-day chunks. And if they look different, that could also guide you towards how your audience's expectations are changing for your business. So those two pieces of information, a good conversation and a little bit of data diving, that would set you on the right track.
Absolutely, Pat. When I heard Jamie speak in March, I went back into all my Silver Council private clients. What I recommended to them is I said to pick up the phone and to call. And I said, my suggestion, what I am personally doing is my goal is 10 phone calls a day. I said this back in March. I'm going to do 10 phone calls a day, 3 personal, which that's family or whatever, 3 personal, 3 business, and then also 4 off of social media where I have followed social media. Maybe somebody's having a hard time or something's happened, and that I would pick the phone up to 4 of those people off of social media. So the goal was 10 calls a day. And what a difference it made, Pat, in making those phone calls to people, especially as COVID-19 hit and as it progressed, because people's attitude was, oh, well, this is March, it was okay. And then as each month progressed, people got into a state of depression. A lot of people did, and didn't know what if. And I also know that in our show, Sarah, in June, we talked about this with the networking where we had Carol Dockham from Beautiful Faces Going Places and Amy Assisi from eWomen and Araya McGarry, that I talked about this again in June about picking the phone up and making 10 phone calls a day. And just recently, I've seen people do 5-call challenges or whatever, but we were already doing this in March. So I couldn't agree with you more, Pat, about picking that phone up and calling. And I can't wait for Jamie to talk about some of the other things that go with that phone call.
And I'll say in March, in the first part of April, I wasn't having to call anybody. They were all calling me because, you know, COVID came down. They weren't prepared for that. And then there was all these new laws and all these new ways for them to get money. So it gave me opportunities to talk to my clients. You know, what's going on? How can we help you? And so fortunately, I didn't have to make all those phone calls. But yeah, talking and building that relationship one-on-one is a huge part.
Absolutely. So with our customers in mind, what should we do with the business?
What we were talking about before kind of builds on that. So you got to go back to your core product or service. And again, that might have changed. So that's a good reason to go back and look at what's selling right now. But you have to review your core product and service and ask the question, what's in it for them? And Jamie's probably laughing at me because I can't open my mouth without ever saying what's in it for them. And we're in Milwaukee and network quite a bit. So like it's my tombstone is going to say what's in it for me. It's going to be on my tombstone someday because it's something I deeply believe in. But when you have your product or your service and you're thinking about your customer, why they're buying your product is not readily apparent until you stop and think about what they want out of what you do. And the example that I use for this is if you're a lawn care company, you're not selling short grass and nice shrubs. What you're selling are rounds of golf and naps and time with your kids. So you really need to get down to what's in it for them when they say yes to do business with you. And when you identify those emotional benefits, that's everything. So what's in it for them emotionally and what's the outcome of using you? So you start with what does success look like between now and the end of the year? Then you connect with your customers and see how they're doing. Then you see what's selling, but then you also have to reevaluate in today's environment, why are they buying that thing from you? And between those three things, that'll get you started with what you need to know to move forward.
See, every time I listen to you, Pat, I feel like I want to play along. So my head's like, ooh, okay, they're getting more money and they're getting time to continue to focus on the business and making more of that money.
That's right.
Okay, I'm good. Let's go.
Keep going. Let's go.
Well, you know, Pat, let me ask you something. So we're talking about having these phone calls and reconnecting with our customers. So, you know, some of our customers that are business entrepreneurs and corporations, let's say they're in the travel industry or they're in the industry of spas. And so what kind of conversations and what are some of the things that you can say to these people during those times? Because that has been a really tough conversation to have with some of those people.
Yeah. If you're in the travel industry right now, it's survival mode. It's what can you do to stay alive until the industry comes back? And that's a circumstance that's truly out of their control because they really can't do much. Now, a travel agent that is a good business person might have a little bit of cash reserve set aside so they can weather the storm. And the really smart ones, the top 1%ers, what they're doing right now is they're getting ready with capacity planning. They're getting into their operations and understanding 6 months from now, or let's hope it's 6 months from now or 3 months from now, or however long it's going to take until people feel confident to start booking travel again. What can I do to withstand the demand? How can I outsource tasks that aren't the key activities that I need to do to make money? So the real A players are one, trying to stay alive, but two, looking forward to what life is going to look like when it comes back. Because one thing that we know, people still want to travel. And with as much as I've been sitting home, I can't wait to go someplace. So it's going to be as hot as a firecracker when it's time for them to get going. So that's what I would recommend. As hard as it sounds, don't try and make a bunch of sales right now because it's not going to happen. But get close to your customers and get ready for the flood because it's coming. At least that's what I believe. I think it's going to come real soon.
Well, and I've been hearing, and I don't know if Pat, we were hearing some of this in some of your idea sessions, but I've been hearing about the hospitality industry. Some of these hotels are starting to prepare the invites to pull the trigger when it looks like travel's about ready to open back up, or more people are out staying at hotels, to send the invitation. Remember us? Wasn't it great the last time you were here? And you're invoking all of those feelings, the emotion I had the last time I was there. You're reminding them you exist, so that when it happens, you're front of mind, right?
Yeah, and that's another thing that we shouldn't ignore, is that the real A players haven't stopped doing hardly anything differently. They're still marketing, they're still engaging their customers, they're still holding events, they're still asking for people's allegiance and engagement. If you say, well, travel industry is not doing real well, so I'll just go to sleep for 6 months, that's not how it works. You have to stay in front of your customers, trying to engage them, so that way you're ready when everyone's ready. And part of that, and I didn't mention this earlier, but another thing that you should be thinking about right now to try and save 2020 is really working out your action steps and your activity goals. Because if you're sitting right now looking up at the rest of 2020 and you're thinking, how in the world am I going to do all this? It's really comforting to take what success looks like and break it down into the action steps of what you need to do today. What do I need to do right now? And trust the process that if you do what you need to do now and today and tomorrow, the outcome is going to be there. And that's something I've been coaching clients through for the last couple of weeks.
And I couldn't agree with you more, Pat, is during this COVID-19, a lot of the clients that I was speaking with, this was a great time that, let's refresh the website, let's create some programs, let's, like you say, the action steps. So when we do flip the switch, you're ready to go. You're not having to recreate or do these things. So, action is very important. And those that coast and didn't do anything, they're way behind the curveball. They are almost, in my opinion, they could be done for the year if they don't start moving forward with action steps.
Yeah, there are a lot of folks right now that are so far behind they won't catch up. People that weren't industry leaders might be emerging industry leaders, and vice versa. People that thought they could coast might wake up realizing that a competitor's passed them by.
Well, absolutely. And Jamie, I would love for, because a lot of the things with our clients that we were talking about are the things that Jamie offers and the services, and staying connected with that customer. This is a great time. You have a gold mine in your current list right there, and to reconnect with that current list instead of going out there looking for new people. Let's reconnect with what we have, as well as, looking for new people.
Yeah, Pat, what you just said there about the competitor passing you by, I actually just had a conversation with someone this afternoon who teaches sales, and he said what people need to recognize right now is that this is a prime opportunity to talk to people who are maybe on the fence, because who they were loyal to maybe isn't going to exist anymore. And now, now who will they have to go to? So remind them you exist.
Yeah. And if you're willing to alter your service, you could take market share. Maybe the number one competitor isn't willing to drive the documents to your door, or maybe the number one competitor isn't willing to work on Zoom or Fridays or weekends or whatever it might be to help someone be comfortable to choose you over them. The rules have been rewritten in a lot of different ways. And there's been so much forced adaptation that someone that's creative and aggressive might be able to find a way to solve the puzzle better than people used to. And that can put you into a market leader position pretty quickly.
And it's a great time to think outside the box, right? Get with your mastermind group or your silver council or your e-women group or whatever that might be, and just brainstorm ideas. You'd be surprised what people came up with. I saw a travel agency on Facebook who is showing you different parts of the United States to get you interested in the different places here, so that when you do start traveling, RVs are a huge hit right now. They may buy an RV and go travel to some of these places, but I like these people who are thinking out of the box. As a caterer who's providing lunches and dinners instead of just weddings, or event planners who are doing things on Zoom. So you got to think outside the box and connect with your people.
And I'm going to give a quick exercise, and this is just something you might want to do if you're looking to think outside the box, especially if you think, oh, I'm not creative. I can't think out the box. I can't come up with something amazing. Yes, you can, first of all, and knock it off. Secondly, if you know what the outcome is, as long as you know what the outcome is, you can come up with a creative idea. And here's how I have people do it. Here's my magic wand. So there's no rules. Okay. There are no rules to this conversation. Financial constraints don't matter. Timing doesn't matter. Nothing matters. Take all of the reasons you would say we can't do this off of the table. Find the objective of the customer and then start saying, well, what if we did this? Oh, what if we did that? And what you do is it's called edge crafting. You keep on coming up with a more and more outrageous idea to solve that problem until you go just over the line. And then you bring it back. So you build and you build and you build, and then it's, that's ridiculous. I can't chew their food for them, but I can deliver the food right to their house and prepare it at the kitchen table, or whatever the answer might be. Right. So you see what I'm saying? So you push. And when you understand how you can differentiate yourself from someone else, and you use an exercise like edge crafting and push your differentiation as far as you can go, those are the types of things that customers switch vendors for. And those are the types of things that get you new customers when maybe you didn't before. Because at the end of the day, no one can hire you unless they know about you. And no one can know about you unless you stand out. And you can't stand out if you're doing the same thing as everybody else. So it's crucial, if you want to grow your market share, to have a point of view that's different than everybody else.
Absolutely.
You know, Pat, and we have several people that Sarah and I know, and the one travel agent she's talking about right there, that was my suggestion, because she had all these trips to Europe, she had the cruises, and, you know, everything shut down. And so when things started to open up a little bit, I said, why don't you market things in the United States? Because people, after being cooped up all this time, they're ready to go and do things. They're ready to take little trips. Look at all the people that traveled to Florida and all these, and the beaches, and look where we're at today. They did that, and they didn't practice safe guidelines, but people are ready to go. So she's doing some local trips, the Rockies, or doing New England, or things of this nature for people in the local part of the United States. We know another person that was in the hospitality of event planning, weddings, and corporate and things of this nature. And Sarah, and she went into doing preparing dinners for people, and she's serving hundreds of meals a day, prepaid meals, and she's got delivery drivers that are delivering meals to these families at night, because maybe they don't want to go out and shop or whatever. I have a celebrity chef that I work with, that a corporation, they decide they're not working. It's a small corporation, small business, and so what they're doing is they're meeting at this mansion house that they have in Arizona, and she's going there and preparing the meals for the staff, the essential people that come in, and that's what she's doing now for them. So you do have to be very creative. You do have to think out of the box, and you do have to be front and center. So when people are ready to make a decision, the person they want to make a decision with is the person they see the most out there.
That's right. So, okay, first I need to be able to say I know a celebrity chef. That has to happen. But that's the whole goal, right? To be able to stay front of mind. So when it's ready. So these travel agents and people in those industries, I get it. And I know survival mode is where most people are, right? But I think there's two ways that people are doing this well right now. And if the budget's there, then I would encourage you to go to maybe take it this far, but show up in front of people with something physical that reminds them of the last place they went using your services. Because if you put that in front of me, I am missing being out there. And it's the only thing I'm going to think about for a long time until I can get there again. Right. Absolutely. And you're going to be the first person I call. And if you don't have the budget for that, I've seen some people, I'm part of some lists, start emailing me pictures of all these places and the deals that are going to be there in the future, because I am scrolling through that, so it's two versions of how to do that.
Absolutely. Pat, I'd like to ask you a question. I appreciate that, Jamie. Is one of the things that I had recommended too, Zoom, I've never really done any Zoom until COVID-19. And I was coming up to Cincinnati in March to do an in-person speaking engagement, and COVID hit, and they said, oh, by the way, Celeste, we're going to make this Zoom. I said, I've never done Zoom before. I've never done a presentation. So it was a first. And then like every month, 2-3 times a month, I'm speaking on Zoom networks and sharing and educating. So I guess what my point is, and I sort of lost that point for a second here. One of the things that I recommended to some people was to create some Zoom events and invite people to give them some free education, to educate them and to share things with them and make it a safe place. Where they can come in and learn something educational from you, where you can be a little bit inspiring for them. And again, maybe have something that they can opt into. Maybe you're doing an online Zoom event or something, or an educational workshop that they can do. Even with the travel thing, I said, create a travel club or create people to come to learn about these things. And it's a free thing, just like you speaking to a group, but invite them to your Zoom event and tell them about the Rockies or tell them about the New England when they are ready. And so they have that information. And then like Jamie said, you can follow it up with an email, or you can follow it up with a gift or something if you have a peak interest. So, what are your thoughts on people creating events during the COVID-19 and using Zoom?
Oh man, you just wound me up here. I
know.
want to go for a second. All right. My past is in broadcasting. I spent 20 some odd years in radio, and we are now in a post-transmitter age, meaning I don't need to ask anyone's permission to have a show about anything, anywhere, anytime. If I've got an internet connection and I've got a webcam and a microphone, I can do a show. And you know whose permission I need? 0 people. Being in a post-transmitter age, that changes, I think, the value proposition for entrepreneurs to host events, because the most powerful thing is not hosting an event. The most powerful thing is creating a stage and then having the power to give it away.
Exactly.
So I love creating events. I love hosting events. But what I really love is being able to give that stage to other entrepreneurs and their connections. Because when you give someone the stage, if you can build an audience and then use that stage to prop other people up, you end up extending your audience and you get to create a culture of the people that are around you. So when the virus hit March 18th, I started a show called the Small Business Rally Point. And I went on Zoom just like this, and I started hosting a daily talk show with the people in my network. And I did it because we were all freaking out and there was no place to go and talk. So I started this show, and the show is still going on today. And I create the show, I do an interview, and then I give people the stage to talk with one another. And that is something that everyone should be doing, either with their contacts or with their customers. Find a way to start and host a conversation and create a community out of your customers. You'll never do it differently if you start that.
Well, and the one thing that Sara and I are both very grateful for is we have known Penny Rogers with WCEG Network for 4 years now, and I've spoken on WCEG a couple of times. And Penny wanted to have this global legacy and wealth building show, and back then, coming into Atlanta a couple of times a month, the traffic, this or that, and just things were going on. Sara went through some personal things with her health, and one thing led to another. But when COVID-19 hit, Penny reached out to us, and she said, Celeste, what do you think of you and Sara hosting the Global Legacy and Wealth Building Show? And we are so grateful and honored and privileged that Penny has given us this opportunity. We started in May. I mean, when she talked to us, it was less than 10 days there that we put together the first show. And so we were doing it twice a month. So we made the first part about business and the business entrepreneur, the corporation, the direct selling team. And the second show was always about nonprofits and how to help nonprofits grow. And again, what a wonderful platform that Penny Rogers has done and offered to us, as well as given us the opportunity to offer it to guests like you and Janie and Kim Scouller tonight. So what a blessing.
In the information that just the two of you have told us right here is they're gold nuggets, just like that gold, like the album behind you. But
Oh, yes.
they're
My
great
gold record.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been looking at that. But they're great gold nuggets for people. And if you pick up on just 2 or 3 of these out of each one, the different things you learn how to do for your business and to grow your business is huge. I mean, I've spent, a couple of weeks just reevaluating my whole business processes. What is the right direction to go? Next year, I won't have a tax season this long, please God. But, just how am I going to create new business, getting more people in here? Because now my audience is on the internet. So it's been a huge learning experience for me.
Well, and what that allows us to do is that allows us the opportunity to specialize. The best thing that you can do for your business is do something that feels like play to you and work to everybody else. That's rule 1. And the second thing is you'll be very successful if you have an extremely narrow target audience. And that, what I mean by that is the more narrow you can be, the better chance you have of reaching that person. So, Sara, let's say that you were offering your service just for divorcees over 45. Let's just say you were going to help them. That gives you a very narrow target audience. And the fact that you're 100% or could be 100% digital allows you the chance to help people in that category anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world. And when you realize that you have an unlimited audience online, that allows you the chance to do just what you love for a very narrow audience. And the opportunities are endless when you move that direction.
Absolutely. And it's pushed me to become more paperless. I love my paper. That's been hard, but yes, the whole experience has been overall good. But when that restaurant opened that first night, I was there. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Pat, we know who we're targeting and what we're selling and why they should care. So now what?
Well, for the remainder of 2020, what I want people to do and what I'm encouraging my clients to do is to reframe how they get to their goal. So I'm working people through an exercise where we look at what the end product is and then create an activity goal to hit that end product. So I can share the process real quick to make sure everyone knows how it works. So if you look at your end goal, and I'll put some numbers on it just because it's easy to go through. But
okay.
If you have your end goal, and let's say you want to make an extra $30,000 in sales for the rest of the year, the next thing is to identify, okay, well, what's my primary product? What's the core product that I sell? Well, I sell a product that's $500. Okay, great. So do the math. That means you got to sell 60 packages. And numbers on the radio are hard, so I'm sorry that we're going through numbers. But basically, all you got to do is remember whatever number we're on. So you got to make 60 deals, okay? Then you have to say, all right, well, what's my closing rate? If I get a pitch, how quickly do I close? Well, I close half the people I talk to. Okay. So now you need to talk to 120 people to make those 60 deals, to make that $500, to make that $30,000. Then you have to ask yourself, okay, if I need 120 pitches, how many conversations do I have to earn the right to make 120 pitches? And maybe you have to talk to 3 people to earn a pitch. Now you've got an activity goal. You need to have 360 conversations to earn 120 pitches, to sell 60 packages at $500 a head to make your $30,000. And when you take a goal as massive as sell $30,000 worth of stuff, and you bring it all the way down to, I need to have 3 conversations a day. What's a good job look like? 3 conversations a day. How do I know that? I know that by running through that exercise. And that way you can even grade your day. I would recommend you grade your day. Do you get an A, B, C, D, or F on that day based on, did you get your 3 calls? Did you get your 3 conversations? And then you just trust the process. You know what it looks like. You know what you need to do to be successful. And then you let your numbers take care of itself. And if you're a little bit better at closing than you thought, then you go over your goal and you end up having a good second half of the year. So knowing what the activity is, that's what we can control. We can't control what people say. So that's what I'm telling my customers to do right now. And I would encourage anybody else that feels a little overwhelmed about 2020 to do the same.
Well, and I appreciate that, Pat. I do an exercise, and it's sort of along the same lines of what you have. You know as well as I do that a lot of people focus on money, and you do have to have a money goal, and you do have to know what your products cost, and you do have to know your numbers. But the thing of it is that you have to do a mind shift and get people's money. Once you have that money goal, don't focus on the money on a daily basis. And what I do is that you have leads. Leads create appointments. Appointments create sales conversations. Sales conversations create sales, and sales creates the money. You can't make any of that money without the leads. You can't make sales without the leads. You can't have sales conversations without the leads. You can't have appointments without the leads. So focus on those leads. And then, like you say, run the process through that. At the end result will be that money goal that you had in mind. And I always say 3 phone calls a day. You have to have 3 phone calls a day that you're asking somebody to do business with you.
Amen to that. Where's the preach emoji? That's what I'm doing right there. That's what I'm giving you right there. That's brilliant. And said so much more eloquently what you said. Do that.
Well, and I appreciate what you have to say, because again, it's a different perspective. But again, people don't understand, and I'm sure you know this as well as I do, is they don't track those numbers, Pat. And when you're not tracking those numbers, if you don't know where you've been, you don't know where you're going, and we can monitor that on a daily basis, a weekly basis, and a monthly basis. And if we're not monitoring it all, then this is what happens at the end of the month. They don't know where they've been, and they have failed. They failed themselves.
And where I think too many people fail themselves is by moving on too quickly after the sale. They get the lead, they make the deal, they're happy, and then they don't take care of their customer. And that's a disaster. And that's what Jamie's good at. So Jamie,
look at that.
This is what you do for a living. The Expressory. Now listen, Jamie, I'm just going to gloat about you for a second. Jamie's company, the Expressory, is an absolute cheat code for people in business.
Absolutely.
This company takes care of people like nobody else does. And it puts you in their hands, and they will be blown away by your thoughtfulness and the fact that you did something. So there's my little endorsement, but the Expressory is the bomb. And when you make that deal, don't ignore them. Hire Jamie, because she's good.
Absolutely. And we're getting ready to get to hear from Jamie. But Pat, would you please let our audience know your name, the name of the company, how they can get a hold of you, or any offers that you have for our listeners today, please?
It's been a pleasure to be on the show. Thank you so much. It's easy to find me. I'm Pat Miller, the Idea Coach, and you can get me online, patmillerideacoach.com. patmillerideacoach.com is the website. And my offer right now is we are starting a new community for driven small business owners. It's called the Idea Collective. And it is a group of some of the smartest people I know, all collaborating together, because as a small business owner, there's a lot of places to network. There's not a lot of places to collaborate. So I'm trying to build that online, and you can find out more about that on the website, patmillerideacoach.com.
Well, and I'm going to jump in and return the raving here, because we were talking earlier about the brainstorming and leveraging the groups that you're a part of to do this community. Connect with Pat, because in part of that community, there's some ideating. Can I talk today? But there's, we have entire conversations where you're able to bring to the table what is the thing you're working on, and then just receive all the ideas, and it's some fantastic collaboration. So there would be a good space to do that, to tap into that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for that, Pat. And now we're going to go over to Jamie. And I know, Jamie, Pat shared some ideas with us about how to save 2020 by reconnecting with our customers. And as a relationship building expert and loyalty strategist, do you think that building those relationships with customers looks different for the rest of the year?
I think absolutely, right? Life has changed in a lot of ways. And so I think when it comes to how we engage with our customers, that thing has shifted for sure. About 9 months ago, I started having, which is where you and I met, right? In March, I was going around traveling, talking about the world back then. And it was a different time in the relationship building, that our grandparents, grew up building their businesses in a very different way. And those basics had already changed 9 months ago. And then everything tipped upside down. It's that whole snow globe, right? Now we're all stuck at home, and people are having to relearn what it looks like to connect with their customers. So of course, when I'm talking, here come the animals. Okay, so 9 months ago, I'm talking about we're living in this digital time, and we are in a place of overwhelm. We have so much coming at us digitally. It's the first time in history where we have access to so much information that people are rationing what gets their attention. And you think about how that has just amped up even more. Breaking news every 5 minutes, it seems, right? And so at that point in time, as business owners, we're already in a state of overwhelm because we have information coming at us, just like our customers. We're rationing what gets our attention, and yet we're still trying to grow and build successful businesses. So guess what goes by the wayside when that happens? Guess where we start cutting corners? How can I connect with my customers faster because I don't have time for this? So we go digital, we go to the mass, and we keep it real surface. And that just already wasn't getting the job done as efficiently back before March hit. And now we all come home and we all are working. We can't connect face to face. And guess whose phone is ringing off the hook? Because people realize, I have to rethink this. I have to figure out how to get in front of my customers in a meaningful way. And everybody's been talking about when we get back to normal, what does normal look like? I hope one of the things that we hold on to is the shift that is happening in the relationship building space. Because when Pat first started and he talked about the best thing you can do is start by picking up the phone. And he said, you start by listening and you start by understanding. And I would tell you, once you have that, if you can show up and acknowledge your customers based on what you just heard, something that's going on in their space, you are golden. If you showed up in front of me as a business, as someone that I do business with, and showed me that you saw me right now in some way, you have got my loyalty because you've heard me. You heard that I'm going through something. You heard that I need to celebrate something that I can't get out and, surround myself with people to celebrate. You acknowledged that I'm doing something. Like, just be human. Clearly you can see that I'm very passionate about this happening differently as we're going forward here. But this is what I want people to recognize, is just listen and find the little ways to get in front of people.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Sarah. Go ahead.
So, okay. I'm constantly either in front of people or on the phone with them and things like that. And I am constantly trying to recreate how I build those relationships. So I would come to you because I think we missed a step. I don't know exactly what you do.
Gotcha.
I just met you for the first time today.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about you and your business and how I would go about doing that with you.
Thank you. So to back up, what we do is we take that off your plate. We take the follow-up, the nurturing in a physical sense, right? So we don't do the digital, we don't do the email, that kind of thing. But we're here to help you continue to nurture those relationships. Say it's, you know what, it was really great to meet you. And that looks like a handwritten card. Or, hey, thanks for taking the time. Or I just want to celebrate you. I see that you just hit a milestone. I know, because in your case, right, you're in their books. You understand where they're trying to go. So what if you showed up with just a simple message that said, I know you've been working hard toward this and this year got flipped upside down. just want to say congratulations because I see you're going in the right direction. If that was all you sent me, holy cow. Thank you, because I am working my butt off and you just acknowledged that. Like, you are now my best friend and I will be raving about how thoughtful you were.
That's a huge problem. I never get to that point.
Most people don't anymore.
You know, I get to that point and then it's 10 o'clock at night. I got to sit down for a minute, right? I lose my energy at that point in the process.
Sure. And this is why my business exists, because I hear this over and over again. I don't know what to say. And by the time I figure out what to say, the moment has passed and there's no reason for me to send it anymore. Or, you know, like you, I can't get to it anymore. And then I got to find the stamps, right? So as Pat said, yes, we are your cheat. We exist to write those for you and mail it out for you. And a lot of times that also looks like a gift, welcoming a new customer. I mean, we can get into some of this stuff, but yes, that is what we do, because it's just not happening anymore. We are not taking it from the leads, from the masses, and to much further these days. We get the sale and we run. And then we wonder where, you know, why we got to work so hard, because it costs you 5 to 7 times more to go get the new customer. And that includes in your time, right? To go get the new customers than to just focus on your existing database.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, you know, Sarah, one thing that really impressed me the most about Jamie when I heard her speak at the eWomen in March is there is a process, whether it be welcoming a new client that, you know, that's come on board, whether they're renewing with you, or maybe you're meeting somebody for the first time and you want to take that process to the next level. You know, Jamie's company, the Expressory, has something, there's a process that you take people to from where you first meet them, you're introduced to them, you have a conversation with them, you maybe have another meeting, and you want to take them through this process that it ends up becoming a sale. You know, one of the things that we talk about is a lot of people we have seen over the, like Jamie said 9 months ago, you know, building relationships isn't a tweet, it isn't an email, it isn't a text. It's a real conversation, or it's receiving something personable, acknowledging people for something. This is all part of building a relationship, and Jamie does a great job with her company in helping. So let's just take you, for example, with Poe's Accounting Services, of taking those clients that come in, the tax people that come in that you know that maybe did individual taxes, but then maybe they had somebody to do their business taxes and they just had you do their business. I mean, they're personable, but you want to get them on the books for next year or whatever to do their taxes next year. So you want to romance these people through this process that gives you an opportunity to present to them where you can make a sale. Is that right, Jamie?
Yeah. So what you described is where we always tell people to start is with your customer journey. And because every brand has its own, you know, series of how you're moving those people along in doing business with you. And that's where we tell people to start, to take a look at that. I mean, if you want to, we can jump in real quick to that.
Yeah, please go ahead, Jamie.
And Pat, feel free to jump in with ideas. But you know, when we guide people through mapping out their customer journey, we bucket what we call triggers, and we say there are 3 different stages that you want to look at in your customer journey. There are things that happen before people are even customers. There are things that the customer controls whether or not they happen. And then the things that happen, that events or occasions that you as the business trigger. So if we go back to before they're even a customer and we think of some things that could be touch points, we have, you know, thanking someone for referring a customer to you. Let's see, we have whether or not you met them, you networked with them, right? We have, let's see, just overall prospect courting. How do you get in front of the people you want to reach and even talk to? There's the potential for some personal touch points there. Okay, then you move into when they become a customer and the things that they control where you could have some touch points with them. The very first thing is what happens when they become a customer. Their birthday is another one. Whether or not they hit a milestone by working with your product or service. And maybe your product or service also helps them through a transition. We talked about, working with people going through divorce earlier. That's a transition that you can tap into to do a little bit of personal relationship building. Then there are the items that you as the business control that you can use to reach out to people. So maybe you're getting ready to launch a new service or experience. That could be a reason to get in front of people. Maybe you're about to have an event. Maybe you just want to do overall appreciation or just because. Do you have a VIP program in place? What other, maybe you're going to be a new author soon. You should be in front of people because of that. You should use your book all day long to nurture relationships. One thing we do for authors very often is maybe they met someone, right? They're doing a little bit of prospecting. Maybe they want to get in an interview. We send the book with a message that refers to a particular chapter or conversation in that book that the person should read. It's a gift. You tell them, hey, still thinking about our conversation. You should take a look at chapter 7. I think you'll really appreciate that. And then let's talk. Think about that relationship, right? So you're going to go through and you're going to brain circle, write down any of those opportunities in your customer journey that you have that you could show up in front of your customers. We call using them as triggers, right? It's just a reason.
One thing I can think of, Jamie, for Sarah, and because I know Sarah very, very well, how you have clients on contracts, right? Okay, so you don't want to wait till the end of the year and you're asking people to renew contracts, this or that. So, along the way, prior to that, you send them something like tax season gets over with, and let's say hopefully they had a fabulous year. So you're going to send them a gift and reward them, say, congratulations on the fabulous year, that you had, in 2019. So it's something as she said, it's a journey. It's the experience that they experience with you throughout the year. And then when it comes time for renewal and to renew that contract or whatever, it's not like they haven't had an experience with you up until you're ready to renew. Go ahead, Pat.
Yeah.
I was just going to jump in and say that the way that I would use Jamie's service, and I do use Jamie's service, is what's the ideal moment that you want to be in your customer's hands? And why would you want to be in the customer's hands? So we get excited when the Amazon guy comes and we know it's coming. Imagine hitting your customer and they have no idea it's coming. And for Sarah's business, imagine November 5th, you get Sarah's care package in the mail saying, hey, you know what? Tax season seems like a long way off, but it's not a long way off is the end of the year. So here are 10 things you should do by December 15th, and you'll thank me later. And click here or give me a call at this number and we'll set up your appointment so we can get you in right away for a tax return. And you send them a little gift to underscore that. But who do you want to reach and what is the ideal time to be in their hands? And Jamie and her creative team can come up with a million different ways to do it because it's a little overwhelming to think about all the things Jamie can do. Jamie doesn't do it that way. She looks forward and say, what's the results you want? And she'll put you right in their hands at the right time.
See, and what I love, okay, so the creative twist I would put on that was why aren't people doing it themselves, right? Because it's a headache. So send them a little drink mix with it. Like, I know this is not fun. Here's a little bit, right? Or a treat that like, hey, this is the last thing you want to think of. I'm going to make this easy for you. I mean, who wouldn't sign up for that, right?
Absolutely.
Exactly.
I know who I got to call.
I love it.
Well, and I can tell you as a customer, that's the way it goes with Jamie, is you share what's the outcome that you want. You share who the customer is. And then she'll come back to you in a couple of days with a PowerPoint presentation of, okay, here's the thing, and I'm going to solve your problem. And I'll go one better. Jamie, if you hire Jamie's company, you don't need to ever talk to Jamie. Okay.
That's right.
And this is the truth. So when someone buys my stuff, Jamie's team gets an automated email from my CRM and they take it from there. I don't even know what they're doing and they take care of everything. It is an absolute cheat code.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jamie, do you have anything else you'd like to add about the Expressory? And we definitely want to know a little bit more about it, how we can get a hold of you.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, so here's the thing. If on my website, so theexpressory.com, THE Express, EXPRESSORY.com, you can find a page called Experience Us. We would love to have you experience this Expressory. We'll send you over a little package, show you, have you feel what it's like to receive a nice surprise in the mail, and get a feel for what your recipients would receive.
Well, I definitely think it's a great opportunity and a great idea because people like it. I saw the Amazon truck pull in the driveways. I was leaving today. I was like, oh, I'm missing it. But yeah, you're right. It's great to get good things in the mail, because we don't necessarily get nice things or good things in the mail anymore.
No. And there's actual research that says a physical mailing connects with the part of the brain related that triggers emotions, right? So when you mail something, you have now attached those good feelings, the good emotions to you.
I love it.
Yeah. Yes.
Absolutely. Well, Jamie and Pat, I can't thank you enough for being our guests tonight. And what a wealth of information both of you has shared with us. Pat, would you give us a few of your kind words of wisdom about the call here today? Some good key takeaways for people, please.
My key takeaway from today is don't get overwhelmed by the end of 2020. It looks a little bit scary right now and no one knows what's going to happen. But what you can do is take action on what you can control. And you can control the way that you think, and you can control the baby steps you take every day to try and accomplish your goals. And the other thing that you control are the customers that you have in hand. And if it's been longer than 2 weeks since you talked to some of your best customers, that's about a week and a half too long.
Absolutely.
So what are you doing today to stay close to your best customers? Because you can find new ones, but don't lose the great ones you have.
Absolutely. And Jamie, your key takeaways today, please.
I agree. I think it goes back to take a look at your current database. And if it's just make a point of taking 5% of that database and split it out weekly, monthly, whatever you were able to do consistently, break that number down and show up in front of them in some way. And if you need a list of reasons, excuses to get in front of them, I am happy to help you brainstorm that list.
Absolutely. And one more time, Jamie, would you give us your website, and do you have a phone number as well for the show, please?
Of course. Phone number 414-243-8971, and the Expressory can be found at the Expressory, THE Expressory, EXPRESSORY.com.
Absolutely. And Pat, one more time for you, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Pat Miller, the Idea Coach. And my website is patmillerideacoach.com. And my number, 414-240-1315.
Very good. Sarah, any closing comments from you, please?
So what's the gold album for, the gold record?
The short version is I was the first person in the country to add a record that became a great big hit. So the record company sent me a gold record for it.
Oh, awesome. Congratulations.
Oh, it was great. And I love the song too. So I'm glad it was a big hit.
Well, again, Pat and Jamie, thank you so much for being our guest on the show here today. I'm sure our audience will be reaching out to you. And at this time, I want to remind our listeners that they're listening to the new WCEG Network on WCEGTalkRadio.com. You can watch us live on Smart TV, YouTube, WCEG Network, And I'm Celeste Giordano, your host, along with Sara Poe, my co-host of Global Legacy and Wealth Building. And we're the worldwide community empowerment group where we speak life into the community. Jamie and Pat, have a wonderful and blessed day, and we look forward to speaking with you again soon.
You too. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you. All right. The second half of the show here today, Sara, is we have Kim Scouller with Jade Law. And I'm very excited to have Kim. She is not new to you and I. We've had Kim on several occasions at our workshops, guest speakers at our networking events. So Kim, welcome to the show. We're glad to have you here today.
Well, thanks so much, Celeste and Sara. It is incredible to be able to talk to you all today. And I listened to the earlier part of the program with Pat and Jamie, and holy smokes, they were amazing. And it's so great that, you know, they were the beginning hour, because a lot of the things that we're going to talk about today fit so nicely into the advice and kind of, you know, recommendations that they provided.
Absolutely, and thank you for those kind comments. Today, Sara, we're going to be talking about financial pivots in times of crisis. And what I'd like is, Kim, I would like for you to introduce yourself, the name of your company, any links to your website. So just tell us a little bit about yourself. I'm not going to read your bio. I want you to tell us about yourself, please.
Well, thank you so much, Celeste. So I've known you and Sara for many years, and we actually got to know each other because all of us are real big advocates for women business owners, women in finance. And it just fits so well with all of the things that we're working on. But I have been an attorney for more than 30 years now. And several of those years I spent as in-house counsel for one of the largest financial services companies in the world. My last 4 years at Transamerica Financial Advisors, the Transamerica Financial Group division, I served as president of their largest broker-dealer in the United States based on the number of representatives. And so I had this real opportunity to not only see the legal side, but also the business side of being part of the financial services industry. Now, I loved what I did, and it was an incredible experience. And I've got to say that the folks at Transamerica are some of the smartest people I've ever had the chance to work with. But I had zero control over my time, and serving in that capacity required me to do a lot of travel around the country and actually around the world. So I ended up leaving the corporate side and starting my own law firm, Jade Law Offices, based here in Atlanta, Georgia, and my financial services business, which is all around the country. So I've been able to pursue, you know, our joint mission of speaking to women in particular, but this ability to really teach people how money works and help people solve their financial issues, and also help people on the legal side, because a lot of what I do on the legal side with estate planning and business planning is, you know, planning and problem solving. So it's been incredible to own my own business. And I've learned a whole lot through this process, some of it the hard way, those things that Pat and Jamie talked about, but everything they said was spot on as a business owner, spot on.
They were phenomenal, absolutely. And we're going to break this into two segments, and the first part is financial and the second part is legal. And Sara, why don't you talk to Kim about the financial segment, please?
Okay, I'd love to. Kim, during this time of crisis, you know, we're all in crisis mode to a certain extent. What do people need to be thinking about when it comes to their finances?
So, you know, I get asked this question a lot, especially now with everything that's going on. people are so uncertain and they don't know what to do because none of us knows what's going to happen tomorrow. One day the markets are up and the next day they're down, and 2 days they'll be up and then the next day they're down. And people are losing their jobs, they're being furloughed, they're losing their employee benefits, and wondering what to do with their 401k money. Should they use that money? All of these questions right now at this time, because people are just overwhelmed with the crises and uncertain about what to do. So what I talk to people about is to pivot. The rules about money have not changed. They've been around for hundreds of years and they will never change. But there are pivots you can do in this particular time or in any time of crisis. And I actually just wrote an article for Flourish Digital Magazine that talked about the financial pivots in times of crises. So the first thing that I talk to people about is checking out government programs. There are a lot of federal and state assistance programs for individuals, business owners, families. You may not have needed it a month ago or a few weeks ago, but we're still, according to what I'm reading, in the first wave, and they fully expect a second and possibly third wave of this virus. So understanding what programs are available out there is important, because although you may not need it now, there may be a time in the future. Now, if you want a list of the programs, I kind of keep a list. You can email me at kimscouller, SCOULLER, at WealthWave, WealthWave.com. And I can send you that list, or if you have any questions about the things we're going to talk about tonight, I'm glad to help you with that. Now, the second pivot is to negotiate your debt. If you're looking, how am I going to pay my mortgage, my car loan, my student loan, my credit cards, most lenders today are willing to talk about suspension of payments or some kind of extended payment program. Go to your lender's website, because a lot of them have information on their website on where to turn for that kind of negotiation. The other thing I'll say is, if you're a tenant facing eviction, or someone who might be facing having your utilities cut off, most states, cities, and counties have put a moratorium on that. And I also can give you, I've got a link to information that you can look up your particular community to see whether you have that kind of relief. Now, the third pivot is kind of what Pat and Janie talked about: start a new business. If you've got a job that's just been interrupted, you have one stream of income. When I left the corporate side and I created my own law firm and my own financial business, in addition to having complete control over my time and how I spend it with my family, I had two streams of income. So if a crisis comes up and one of those streams of income gets interrupted, another stream of income may not be affected. Now, it just so happens that in this particular time, a lot of people feel a sense of urgency about their finances and about their estate planning. So right now, both my law practice and my financial business are on the increase, because people are contacting me with all sorts of questions. Now, you may have thought about starting a business in the past, but it wasn't the right time, or you were too busy, whatever it was. Now is the time. Evaluate, think about, what are your skills and abilities? What do you love to do? What have you always wanted to do with a family member, by yourself, or with a best friend? Start looking at that now, because the next time a crisis hits, if you've now taken the time to start a business and have that going, and maybe it's a hedge against a crisis in the future in terms of interruption of your income stream, you will have already done the legwork. But go back and listen to what Pat and Janie said, because again, what they said about starting a business and being a business owner, all the right information. Now, the next pivot is learn how money works. Get financially educated. Learn about what you need to be doing in terms of your own financial plan, all parts of your financial plan, not just what is immediately screaming for attention, but pay attention to all parts of your financial plan. And you can only really do that and understand and make informed decisions if you've taken the steps to learn how money works. Now, the last pivot that I talk to people about is preparing for the next financial crisis. The most successful, financially successful people I know see opportunities in crisis. They take advantage of the moment to reevaluate, to reposition, and reinvent. So step outside your current situation and take a look at the bigger picture. Do not get sucked into the negativity, and do not get resigned to the fact that you may have to lower your financial goals. Heck no, this is the opportunity to figure out how to grow those goals, how to make those things happen. And so in times of crisis, we look for these kinds of opportunities to improve ourselves. So those are the kinds of things that I recommend to people, Sara, at this time of crisis.
Well, you gave a lot of awesome ideas. Things I made me some notes here. And I really enjoyed your article. I read it yesterday. Very well done.
Thank you.
I know her. My celebrity lawyer. I don't have a celebrity chef. I have a celebrity lawyer.
Yeah, I want that celebrity chef too.
Yeah, so I just want to thank you for all those wonderful ideas you just gave us, all 5 of them. What is the hardest thing for women in particular to learn about their finances, and then possibly considering a career in finance? What is the hardest thing for women to do?
So for women, what I found the hardest thing to do is for women to put themselves in a position of importance. Women spend so much time taking care of their families, their loved ones, and just every day, dealing with that and taking care of what needs immediate attention. And so women don't have the opportunity to really take the time and think about themselves and their planning. And because of that, women end up not understanding about money, not knowing what it is they need to know about money. Right now, we all know the statistic. Women make 82 cents for every dollar earned by a man. The median annual salary for a man is $50,000. So if women are making 82%, that means the median annual salary for a woman is $40,000. Now tell me, how significant is that $10,000 to a woman? 43% of Americans pre-COVID reported that they were living paycheck to paycheck. 85% of that number are women. So we're living paycheck to paycheck. We're making 82 cents for every dollar earned by a man. We have to choose careers or jobs that will fit into our lives because we're so busy taking care of our families that we really miss out. So women in particular need to learn how money works, because we are the caregivers and we are the teachers of the next generation. I had a grandmother tell me once that she had taught her son, her now grown, how to live paycheck to paycheck. And he was now teaching her grandchild how to live paycheck to paycheck. And she came to see me to learn how to break the cycle. And I've talked to so many women about how to break the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck. And there are a few things that women can do. Number one is learn how money works in order to break that cycle for themselves. And so it's so important for women. And I know, Sarah, you and Celeste, it's a huge mission for you all as well.
Yeah, because I worry about my grandchildren, right? Maybe high school, and I just don't think they're learning about money. They still think that tree in the backyard's growing it.
It has not been a commitment of this country to make financial literacy important. So right now, the United States trails other countries like Germany, France, Spain, Canada, India on financial literacy. Only 17 states out of the 50 states require one personal finance course in high school.
Wow.
Is it any wonder that adults in the United States end up making bad financial decisions or just plain uninformed financial decisions? And we end up, right now, the statistics are, and again, this is pre-COVID, 44% of Americans don't have enough money to cover a $400 emergency. 43% of student loan borrowers are not making payments. 38% of American households have credit card debt. 33% of Americans have zero retirement savings. And this is pre-COVID. So let me give you a little COVID reality. So the Social Security, we're going to talk about retirement. The Social Security Trust Fund was scheduled to be depleted by 2035.
Okay.
For the last few months, tens of millions of Americans have been furloughed or laid off, and so they're not paying in to Social Security. Because of those few months that several million Americans didn't pay into Social Security, the new estimate for the Social Security Trust Fund running out is 2029. By the end of this decade, what that means is Social Security benefits will be solely dependent on the employees paying into the system. Now, right now, pre-COVID, employees paying into the system only covered 75% of the benefits, which is why the trust fund had to dip in to come up with a shortfall.
Right.
So in 2029, we were talking about the next generation. What's going to happen in my generation? That's 9 years from now.
Yeah.
What's going to happen? So the government is going to have to increase taxes, increase the age, or lower benefits, or a combination of any of those three things. So we have got to get on the stick. We have got to learn how money works, and we got to start doing things ourselves, because I don't know what's going to be there for me in 9 years. I definitely don't know what's going to be there for my son. Every generation wants the next generation to do better, to be more successful, to have more opportunities, to have a better life. I don't know whether that's going to happen for my son unless I create that for him.
Absolutely, Kim. I don't mean to interrupt, Sarah, but we have a question from a listener.
Okay.
And Kim, the question is, what's the difference between forbearance and deferred payments? Is one better than the other?
Great question.
So they essentially mean the same thing. And what you're going to need to do is have your lender explain what they mean by that. Do they mean that interest will not continue to accrue, that they'll just kind of hold the debt in limbo and then pick it up again when you're able to make payments, and they pull off the forbearance or the deferral? Or does that mean that interest will continue to accrue on what your debt is? And so the definition of each one of those two terms is going to depend on how your lender defines it. So ask them to, and they should have that in writing. And the key is going to be, does interest accrue? Do late charges accrue, or don't they?
Okay, so that's your advice is for them to go back and ask their lender and to
Yeah,
ask them about does the interest accrue, or what was the other thing you said, Kim?
late charges. Typically, late charges will not, but I'd ask it just in case.
All right. The other thing is would you also please, because you're given an enormous amount of valuable information, they ask for you to give your email again. So why don't you go ahead and give your email, because some people can't stay on for the entire show. So go ahead and give your email, please.
It is KIM.SCOULLER @WealthWave, and that's spelled WealthWave.com.
Very good, Kim. And I didn't mean to interrupt there, but we had a question, Sarah, so I wanted to get that question out there. And Kim, you're a little dark on us. I don't know if you can put a little.
And I've tried to, maybe if I angle it more, is that a little bit?
Yeah, that is a little bit better.
You know.
Very good. Sarah, I'm going to turn it over to you because Kim, she's just going to keep on. So I'm going to let you go on to the next question.
Okay. So especially now, why is it so important for people to seriously thinking about starting their own business? So I'm moving into more of the legal side. Unless you've got something else, unless you've got something else to talk about what we were talking about.
So, go ahead.
Yeah, well, let's go back to, you're a big proponent of teaching people how money works and why it was so important. And so talk about the 7 money milestones and how you can explain what they are and how they apply to everyone.
Okay, that's a great question.
Yeah.
So, I talked about financial literacy and learning how money works, and then taking what you know and applying that to your financial plan. Now, there are 7 components. We call them money milestones for your financial plan. Everyone needs to make sure that each one of these 7 things is addressed, but some may be more important than others, just depending on where you are in your life and your career. So the first one is financial education, making sure you learn how money works. The second one is proper protection. That's making sure that you and your family are taken care of if anything happens to you or your ability to earn money, or your spouse, your partner. You need to make sure that your income, your assets, your family are adequately protected. Next is an emergency fund. Now, an emergency fund is 3 to 6 months of your income or expenses set aside and only used in a true emergency, like your refrigerator needs to be fixed or replaced. Your tires on your car need to be fixed. You've got that medical deductible, or you've got an emergency dental bill. Something like that qualifies as an emergency. If you don't do that, if you don't have the emergency fund, then what do? You put it on a credit card, or you borrow it from someplace else, some other savings account you've got. And so having an emergency fund is for those of you who are living paycheck to paycheck. The 2 things you can do to stop it is 1, learn how money works, and 2, create an emergency fund. And even if it's $10 a week, $20 a week, whatever it is that you're setting aside slowly but surely, once that emergency fund is put together, 3 to 6 months of income or expenses, then the next time you have an emergency, you are not living paycheck to paycheck. You've got a source of income that's going to cover that emergency, so you stop falling behind. Now, the next milestone is debt management. Now, I'm a single mom, and there are times as a single mom that I've had to make bad choices because I had no choices. So those of you who have been in that position for whatever reason, forgive yourself. Knowledge is power, and a lot of people aren't wanting to look at the debt, open the mail or look online. Get informed. Figure out how much you owe, what the interest rate is, what the payments are, and come up with a plan to start paying your debt down. Whether it's starting with the smallest credit card or the smallest debt, or the one that charges the highest interest rate, start the plan. Now, the other thing I'll say is make a promise to yourself that you will never pay late again, because that's one of the quickest ways to ruin your credit is to pay late. And so start paying on time. Put reminders in your phone or on your laptop or in your paper calendar, whatever it is. Put reminders in there. Put yourself on automatic payment. Whatever it is, stop making your payments late and put together a plan to get your debt paid down. Now, the next one is cash flow. And this has to do with what money is coming into your household. Ladies and gentlemen, say it with me. Multiple streams of income. Count on that. If you've got a job, you've got one stream of income. Own a business, own more than one business. Have multiple streams of income so when a crisis happens, you've got another source that you can depend on. The next and sixth milestone is building wealth. And this is the milestone where you get to have fun because you get to dream about the future. You put money aside for your retirement, for your child's college education, for that dream vacation, maybe for your daughter's wedding, or for that car, or whatever it is that you dream about. That's what you put money aside for in the build wealth category. And then the seventh and final category is protecting your wealth. And that's about making sure you've got an estate plan and you're doing smart things about taxes. There are all kinds of online services that you can turn to for your estate plan, or you can talk to an attorney, whatever it is. Make sure that you touch that one as well, especially if you have minor children, because you don't want a court making the decision for you on who should be the guardian of your children and how your estate should be used to take care of your children.
And you're talking about estate planning. How often should you reevaluate your estate planning?
So you should reevaluate your estate plan anytime there's a life event, a new child or a death in the family, or someone you had thought would serve as the guardian or the trustee, they passed away or they moved away, or you've had a falling out with them, or you've got a child who has special needs. Any life event, you want to reevaluate your estate plan. The other thing is, every 5 to 10 years, just make sure you take a fresh look at it to see whether there's anything that's changed in your life or your planning, and talk to your lawyer or do some research online, because every 5 to 10 years or so, the estate planning requirements may have changed in your state. And so you make sure you've got the right signatures and witnesses and notaries. You've got the right advanced healthcare directive. You've got the right financial power of attorney, because every 5 to 10 years, it seems like the states change the law.
They're good at changing that. I've learned that a lot during COVID-19. Every day they were changing something.
Yes.
When it came to the money they were giving to people. But yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
One thing, Kim, that I've heard you share before is life insurance. And especially later in life, especially if they didn't start early, and the importance of having that where, and you can probably speak this better. I know you can speak it better than I can, where that money that you're putting in later in life, where it comes back to you as a whole. Did you figure out where I'm talking about here?
Right. So there are several different kinds of life insurance. And
you gave an example of like 250,000, and then, based on the age, it would be this, but for people that didn't have a life policy early and started late.
Right. So the earlier you start life insurance, the less expensive it's going to be, because you're younger, you're healthier, And it's just a really great time to go ahead and lock in what those premium charges are. When you're older, because you're older and you may not be as healthy as you were 10, 20 years ago, it just ends up being a little bit more expensive. So for those, people, anyone on, who's listening in, who doesn't already have life insurance covered, get life insurance. I mean, or look into it. There are lots of things that you can look at online. There's a great book called How Money Works by Steve Siebold and Tom Matthews. And again, if you send me an email to kim.scouller@wealthwave.com, and with your address, I'll send you a complimentary copy of this book. And it does a great job of explaining the different kinds of insurance out there. But the younger you purchase it, the less expensive it's going to be. Absolutely, Celeste.
Well, and I think a few years back you had shared that with me, because what a lot of people don't realize is they work for a company, and so they say, oh, well, my company provides insurance, so they don't have a policy outside of their company. Well, not that we're expecting them to pass on, but when they leave or they retire, guess what? They don't have insurance.
That goes away. I talk to a lot of people, especially now, when their job is at risk or they've already been laid off because
Right.
they've lost their benefits. You can continue life insurance as a benefit under COBRA, but it typically ends up being very expensive. So, it's always better to consider having life insurance outside of your work situation. In case something happens to your work situation, you already know that's in place. And you've got that second money milestone about proper protection covered.
Absolutely.
And I learned that the hard way. I worked in corporate America for years, and in 2008, 42 of us were laid off in one day. I never thought about life insurance outside of that. So then I had to go find it, and it was a chore. I mean, trying to determine all the right things, and do I want this? Do I need this? There's a lot to it. And I felt like I was backed up against the wall because my father was an insurance guy. He was having a fit because I didn't have life insurance. So it was just a huge thing. And I'm one of these ones, I need to understand what I'm doing and how it gets there and whatever. It was taking me forever, and I just needed life insurance. So I took the wrong product in the beginning. And
it's about informed decisions when we don't know how money works and we don't know about the different kinds of insurance and all the different kinds of financial products out there. If we don't know, or we don't have a financial professional we can trust to teach us or help guide us through that process, then we do end up possibly making the wrong decision for ourselves.
Well, and I have another financial question with the COVID-19, and we've talked about many people being laid off right now. People that have their 401ks, what should they be doing with their 401ks right now?
So, it's going to depend on their particular situation. First of all, whether they're going to need to, borrow any money out or take a withdrawal any money out in order to help with their situation while they're looking for work or, sheltering in place. And then next, what are the options that the company they're leaving makes for them? And if they move to another company, can they move it to the other company? So it's going to depend on their particular situation, whether they leave it, whether they move it, whether they maybe roll it into something separate, or whether they need to use it for their current living situation. But every person's going to be a little bit different. I recommend talking with a financial professional or doing the math and seeing what makes the most sense for you, because they are tax sensitive instruments. You're going to want to make sure you're making the right decision in the moment but also long-term from a tax standpoint.
Absolutely, Kim. And on the financial segment as well, what is the age limit for a 401k? Like, don't you have to move it by a certain age?
Well, the IRS does require people to take required minimum distributions, or RMDs, now when somebody turns 72 and a half. And so if you've got a pre-tax 401k, then you are restricted from making contributions once you've gone into the RMD phase. Now, there are a lot of companies that offer a Roth 401k option, and that does not require required minimum distributions because it does not use pre-tax contributions.
Absolutely. So Kim, is there anything else in this first segment on the financial segment of pivoting that you want to close the financial segment out? What are your closing comments for us?
The most important thing for people is learn how money works. Don't make decisions about money from a financial perspective. You're going to feel a certain way, and it's why a lot of people lose money in the market, because they buy when the market's too high and they sell when the market's low. You end up making decisions from an emotional standpoint. So learn how money works. Try and be that informed decision maker, not that emotional decision maker. And, talk to a financial professional. Having that third party help you make more objective decisions and providing you with the information, answering all of your questions, it helps you make better decisions. And so that would be, I guess, the theme through my whole conversation is learn how money works and make informed, somewhat unemotional decisions.
Absolutely. And anything that you talked about here today on the financial aspects or getting with a financial advisor, people can reach out to you. Is that true, Kim?
Absolutely. Reach out to me at that email address, kim.scouller@wealthwave.com, and I will send you a complimentary copy of the book, How Money Works. And the subtitle of the book, if you all saw that, Stop Being a Sucker.
Well, I definitely want to make sure Sarah and I and Penny get one of those books, please.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You send the address you want me to mail them to, and I'll get them off this week.
Absolutely. We'll definitely do that. And we appreciate all the pivoting and the information on the financial segment. And I'm looking forward to getting into the legal segment because we've had a conversation about this last month, I believe, Sarah, on the legal part, maybe not this part, but of legal things. So why is it important, especially now, for people to seriously think about starting their own business during COVID-19?
Okay. Say it with me. Multiple streams of income. Okay. And the best way to create a stream of income is you create it. You start your own business. And, again, what Pat and Janie said in the first hour of the show, unbelievable, on spot. Go back and listen to it over and over again. So it's really important for people to create that other source of income by creating a business or more than one business, doing something that they love or they're very talented at, or they've always wanted to do, or they've always wanted to partner with a best friend or a family member. Now is the time to do it, especially when everybody is looking online. So a lot of businesses can be started with little upfront costs online. And so look into that while you've kind of got the time to take a breath and figure out what it is you want to do.
All right. So what are the first steps in that process, such as your entities and things of that nature?
Well, that's exactly right. You've got to figure out how you want to have your business, what entity. So the choices are, you can be a corporation, You can be a limited liability company or an LLC. You can be a partnership, or you can be a sole proprietorship. Now, two of these entities will protect you from liability, you personally and your personal assets from liability. And that's a corporation or an LLC, because those are entities that are separate and apart from you as a partner in a partnership or you as the sole proprietor. So once you decide what kind of entity you want to be, then you file that with the Secretary of State in your state. You decide, if it's just going to be you, then you're the 100% owner and you're the main officer. Or if you're doing it with a friend or a family member or a business colleague, you need to decide how you're going to divide ownership and who's going to play what role. Make sure you set your expectations up front. So you file it with the Secretary of State, and then you create your document. If you're a corporation, the document is going to be called your bylaws. And if you're an LLC, the document is called your operating agreement. And those documents are basically the blueprint for how you operate your entity. Now, of a corporation and an LLC, the easiest one to create and run is an LLC. So you'll find a lot of business owners with the LLC entity.
Absolutely. And I know Sarah and I've had this conversation numerous times that maybe you come in the business as a sole proprietor and then you move into the LLC. And so people are not sure when they should go from one stage to the next. And when should that be? Should that be at the beginning of the year, in the middle of the year, which I know the answer, Sarah knows the answer, but share with our customers, our listeners about that, please.
I look at it from a risk standpoint. What are the risks to you and your personal assets by starting this business? If your business involves real estate where people can fall and have accidents, physical accidents and things like that, then you're going to want to look at doing an LLC pretty early. But if you're starting an online business with very little upfront risk, then you can absolutely start it as a sole proprietorship. And I would, Celeste, kind of defer to you and Sarah on kind of the timing for tax purposes when it makes sense to actually do the conversion.
Sarah, do you have
I've got a
comment on?
question. So I'm starting up my multiple streams of income, right? And one's an LLC, one's a sole proprietor, and I'm thinking of something else. And I've heard this new word, holding company. Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how all that works? Or am I going too far out of the details here?
So a holding company is an entity whose sole purpose is to own the shares or membership interest in other entities that you have. So, for example, I run into this with real estate developers. A real estate developer may have an LLC for each piece of real estate. And then they have a holding company that owns the ownership interest in each one of those LLCs. And so it provides an extra level of protection from a liability standpoint, which is why somebody might consider a holding company structure. Another reason might be if you're looking to have your businesses acquired or merged into another entity, and they're all kind of separate, disparate entities. By pulling them all together in one holding company, it makes it a little bit easier to enter into a merger or acquisition.
Oh, good. I never thought about that. Okay. That's a very good question.
Very good. There's a question from a listener, and I'm not real sure of this, but it says, are you familiar with cash options for retirement from corporate America?
Yes.
Okay, you are. And then it doesn't really, it just asks that question.
So it's really going to depend on your situation. And typically, I think what you're talking about is when a corporation offers you a cash option as opposed to a stream of pension payments or income payments for the rest of your life or for whatever time period the corporate benefit provides, rather than the company being on the hook for that stream of payments over an extended period of time. And if it's for your lifetime, from their standpoint, they look at it actuarially, they come up with a lump sum amount of money that they will offer you in exchange for your right to that stream of payments. And it really is going to depend on your situation. How's your health? What other income are you receiving? What's the break-even point? You can mathematically look at how long you need to live in order for that lump sum payment to have made more economic sense than you taking the payments over your lifetime or whatever that period is. The company looks at it as a math issue, and you should look at it as a math issue in light of your situation.
Okay, very good. Hopefully that answers the question for our listener right there. So what should we be aware of of protecting our name, reputation, intellectual property of our business?
So, I got a little ahead of us, Celeste, when I talked about selecting the entity, because usually the first thing you do is you pick your name.
Okay.
Your business partner, you all pick the name, or you alone, you pick the name. So you pick the name, and I would select a list of names that you feel good about, and then start searching. Search Google and look at every, entry that comes up for the first several pages. What about the website name? Is it taken? Look at social media. Is somebody already advertising that business on social media? And then the other place you need to look, say you get through all of that, it's not on social media, Google doesn't show it, as an entity, then you need to search the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office website. So I think it's uspto.gov. You go on that website, you click on trademarks, and then you do a search, a very simple search on their trademark database. And you'd be amazed at what's already been filed for a trademark. But you need to check it to make sure that it's available, or get with a lawyer who does that kind of work, or a service that does that kind of work, to make sure that that name isn't taken. Because if you invest a lot of your time and energy and money to create a brand, you go out there with that brand and some behemoth finds out that you're using their name, their trademark, they will sue you. They will put you out of business. And all that brand identity and reputation and goodwill you built up will be for naught. So make sure that you do all of the searches. Once you pass all of that, then trademark it. Buy the website address. Reserve the name on all of the social media sites. File for the trademark application. Do all of that so that you are sure that no one else is going to come along and take that. Because all you have in the end is your good name, your brand, your reputation. And why go to all that trouble if somebody's going to take it and without your permission and use it for other purposes? So be sure you protect it.
Well, Kim, a lot of times people take it upon themselves. We can Google and do everything ourselves. I always believe you should hire an attorney and do all that. And you're an attorney, so I'm sure you recommend the same thing, true? Or a CPA,
Because
you
there,
know.
there are things that I know as an attorney with experience doing this for businesses that I can help business owners navigate that they may not learn on their own, or they may end up learning, unfortunately, the hard way. So being able to use an attorney that's going to have that experience and knowledge, and to be able to ask questions and ask hard questions of you to make sure that you're doing all of this the right way, and to get you thinking about things you may not have thought before, it's kind of invaluable. And so I have several small business clients that I do this kind of work for. As part of the business planning we do, we look at their intellectual property. Their trademarks, for a lot of businesses, are the most valuable thing they have.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, Kim, you know this from being at our workshops that Sarah and I do. As a business entrepreneur or corporation, if you're going to get started, number one, you need to have a CPA, you need to have an accountant. I mean, a CPA or accountant, a financial or advisor, you need to have a lawyer, a banker, and an insurance agent. You need to have them in your back pocket with good relationships.
Yes.
Because you're going to need them to grow that business from the very beginning. People think I don't need it. When I need it, I'll get it. No, you need it before you get started.
Well, and I would look at that as my mastermind group. Those are the people that I'm, not only developing ideas and, making business plans with, but I'm making referrals to them. They're great referral sources to you.
Exactly.
It's an incredible relationship you can develop with those experts to help you in your business, not only legal but CPA side, but they're going to make referrals to you. A lot of referrals I get are from those people who help me in my business and, my small business clients. That was going to be the other kind of recommendation I make to people who are looking at starting their own business. Be a good referral source. Be a good customer to the small businesses in your community, because you will get that back 100-fold.
Absolutely.
And support them, support each other in networks or mastermind groups or whatever groups you find yourself in. It is such a great source of ideas and information and referrals for me. And I find that with my clients.
Absolutely. And I'd love for you also, Kim, to comment on, as a business entrepreneur, starting a business, legal and stuff, especially partnerships, because you talked about partnerships in the beginning, the importance of a will.
Yes, absolutely. Almost everyone needs to have a will, especially if you have children. It is critical. Now, a will is the instrument that basically identifies your wishes about your property, your things, when you pass away. And it identifies who you want to take care of your children and who you want to take care of your assets on behalf of your children while they're minors. So having a will in place is so important. In the state of Georgia, where I practice law, if a person dies without a will under state law, their estate is divided equally among their surviving spouse and their children, although the surviving spouse's share cannot be less than a third. So you may end up unknowingly owning the home you all live in with your kids. So to avoid any unintended consequences like that, put a will in place. As I said, there are a lot of online services out there that can do it very inexpensively if you've got a very simple estate. I work with a really great online service called NetLaw. But if you've got a more complicated situation and you want to talk to a lawyer, come see someone like myself or another estate planning lawyer in your community to help you figure those things out.
Absolutely. And especially if you have a partnership in a business, you need to have a will, correct?
Absolutely, because if you own a business with a non-family member and something happens to that non-family member, you end up partners with their family, maybe with their spouse or with their kids or with all of them. And they may be fine, but that wasn't what you thought it would be when you started out in this business. So you want to make sure you put the right documents in place for your business. So if that's not what you and your partner want to have happen, that doesn't happen. You don't end up in business with people you didn't intend to be in business with.
Is there any
Absolutely.
type of,
Go ahead, Sarah.
is there any type of insurance or policies that, so like I'm in a partnership, let's just say Kim and I are in a partnership, and we in you and I, that's our partnership, we don't want our families involved, but I get hit by a bus today. Is there a policy or something that the company or the partnership can buy so that you've got the ready cash to pay out my family?
Absolutely. First of all, you and I would have an agreement amongst ourselves called a buy-sell agreement. That dictates what happens if I die or I become disabled or something happens that I cannot be an active partner with you anymore. You can buy insurance. There are a lot of different kinds of insurance policies that you can buy to cover whatever the cost is, whatever that value is of the deceased owner's share in the partnership, so that the estate, their loved ones are taken care of financially with the death benefit, and you walk away owning 100% of that company.
And that's huge, because I've got a client that's going through that now, and the back and forth between the families, and it's starting to get ugly, and it's going to be real ugly before it's all said and done.
Yes, absolutely. For non-family member business owners, I always recommend they consider a buy-sell arrangement and putting life insurance in place. So well, I won't say everybody wins because somebody passed away.
Right.
But the estate gets paid and the business partner, ends up owning the deceased partner's share.
And he's not, or he or she's not having to wait months to figure out what's going to happen.
Exactly.
The business can continue without any interruptions.
That's exactly right.
Absolutely. Well, we have about 3 minutes left, Sarah and Kim, and this has just been awesome information. I mean, we could talk for hours here. Another question from a listener, what is the difference between a will versus a trust?
So a will is a document that speaks when you die. A trust is a document that exists while you're living. And people use trusts for a variety of reasons. Managing their estate while they're living. Maybe they've got some kind of medical condition that'll make that difficult. Maybe they own real estate in multiple states. Maybe they have special needs beneficiaries. A will is a public document when submitted to court for probate, but a trust is a private document that is not submitted to probate. Trust assets are not subject to probate. So there are several reasons why you might choose one or the other, or maybe both. And an attorney can definitely talk to you about your situation and which one might make the most sense for you.
All right. And any closing comments here, Kim? Anything else that you want to add? And then in closing, I'd like for you again to tell us your email, your website, phone number, how anybody can get a hold of you concerning a financial or legal pivot.
Absolutely. So, we talked about learning how money works and multiple streams of income and starting your own business. figure out what name you want, then search the dickens out of that name and come up with some alternates just in case. And then figure out what the right entity is for you, because it's very easy to do and it will shield your personal assets from liability. An LLC is a very popular entity to use. And then the last thing I'll say is estate planning. Make sure you put your will in place. Even if you're not going to start your own business, it's important for you to go ahead and have those documents in place. And finally, my email address again is KIM.SCOULLER@WEALTHWAVE.com. So kim.scouller@wealthwave.com. Email me your questions. Email me your address if you just want a complimentary copy of How Money Works. Stop being a sucker.
Man, that is awesome, Kim. Thank you so much for being our guest and all the education and information you shared with us. Sara, you're a CPA and accountant, and it goes hand in hand with a lot of things that Kim talked about today. Please tell us your name, your website, and your phone number, please.
Okay. I am Sara Poe with Poe's Accounting Services. My website is poecpas.com. And my phone number is 770-545-8841. And I'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. And I am your host, Celeste Giordano with CelesteGiordano.com, Master Sales Strategist and Business Mentor. We thank Penny Rogers and WCEG Talk Radio Network for hosting this event tonight. Kim, Pat, Jamie, what a phenomenal show we've had tonight. Our heart loves your heart. And Kim, we look forward to having you back on our show again real soon.
I love that, Celeste. I love you and Sara.
Well, we look forward to that. So you guys have a blessed evening and thank you for everything tonight. Bye.
Bye.